Hello, this is Steve Googe welcoming you back to Church Administration 202. I'm glad you made it to our second week, and I'm looking forward to talking about the benefits of a team structure today. In this lesson, what will you learn? Well, you'll learn the definition of a team. You'll learn the definition of teamwork. You'll learn the four primary benefits of a team structure. You'll learn the differences between teams and committees, and then the elements of team success. If you've only been accustomed to using committees in your church or in your ministry or organization, I want to introduce you to the concept of empowered teams, and we will begin right now. It is often helpful before you study a concept to define its meaning, and so we will do just that. Here's a definition of a team. A team is a group of people organized to work together to accomplish a set of goals or objectives that cannot be achieved effectively by individuals nor efficiently by committees. Here is another definition of a team. It's a little more closely related to a biblical definition. A group of individuals working interdependently, co-laboring to influence others toward God's objectives. Those are two very good definitions of the word team. Now, the concept I want to present to you comes from a book entitled The Performance Factor, written by Pat McMillan. A team is a group of people committed to a common purpose who choose to cooperate in order to achieve exceptional results. Teams are a means of achieving goals to reach through individual efforts. Now let's look at this definition for just a moment. It's a group of people, but it's not just any group of people. They are committed to something. It's a common purpose, a common vision, a common calling. They make a choice, and that choice is to cooperate in order to achieve exceptional results. They cooperate, they work together. Their end goal is to achieve exceptional success. Teams are a means of achieving goals, and these goals are achieved through individual efforts. That's a great definition. Notice the definition for teamwork. Again, it came from Pat McMillan. Teamwork is an organizational philosophy or value system and occurrence, whereas teams are specific and discrete organizational units. Now we're going to talk about teams versus committees. Which are better? Before we talk about teams versus committees, I think it would be interesting for you to know that there are several examples of teamwork and teams in the Bible. For example, in the New Testament, we find that fellow workers work together in a selfless, Christ-centered spirit, and you can find that in Colossians chapter 4, verses 7 through 15, and particularly verse number 11. Working with passion, persistence, tenacity, that's found in Romans chapter 15, verse 30, and those are characteristics of a team. And then Colossians chapter 4, verse 7 tells us that we are to serve as fellow servants or slaves to Christ Jesus, as colleagues surrendered to a common cause. There are many imperatives for this kind of ministry. We find it coming from Moses. Moses realized he couldn't perform all the work himself, and neither can we. And then Nehemiah, individuals who were uniquely gifted and uniquely called, served interdependently with common passion and a common cause. Paul and Timothy, they were co-laborers in a shared passion for Christ in Philippians chapter 2, verses 19 through 24. And then Paul and Epaphroditus, they were fellow workers together to the point of death, Philippians chapter 2, verses 25 through 30. So we can see that throughout the Scripture, we have a mandate for being engaged in teamwork. Now, I want to talk a little bit about teams versus committees. First, on your slide, you will see that teams develop their own strategy. That's one of their purposes. Their strategies are developed from within. However, a committee acts on fixed strategies, and those strategies are determined by another group or another board, and then they are commissioned to carry out the strategy fixed by some other group. Number 2, a committee makes recommendations. That's all they can do. They can make recommendations to another group of people who then act on behalf of the committee. They make recommendations to a higher group who then go forward to implement the recommendation. Whereas teams are engaged in implementing strategy. They are empowered. A team will study and then act, whereas a committee will just study and make a recommendation to someone else and expect them to act. A team is empowered. It has the ability to take a concept, study it, develop changes that are necessary, and then enact it. So they are empowered to spend money, to do the work, without going back to another group or another structure. However, a committee is controlled by the structure. If there is an hierarchical structure, then they must follow through with that hierarchy. A committee has a fixed membership. Usually it's a 3-year rotating term with a fixed number of people who are on the committee, whereas a team has flexible membership. People can come or go as they have passion for being engaged in that team. The greatest characteristic that would describe a team member is a person who has passion. And so when you discover a person like that, you don't have to wait to a new church year. You can just enlist them now to begin service. And then there's the team leader. Leadership is always important. A committee has a chairperson. A team has a team leader. Now, team leaders differ from traditional top-down leadership in several ways. I will mention several of these that Bradford called to our attention. Number 1, responsibility. Effectiveness of the group is not on the leader's shoulders only, but it's shared by the group. What about control? Well, the final decision is not to be made by the leader, but is left to the group to decide. And then what about the importance of one's position and power? Well, they are de-emphasized in team leadership. A fourth concept is that a leader perceives the group not as a set of individuals, but as an interacting and collective team. Number 5, the task-oriented functions of the team are not performed only by the leader, but are shared by the entire group through the new roles that they embrace. Now, what about group maintenance? Well, the functions are not performed systematically, but are emphasized and shared by the group as a whole. And then the emotions of the group. Some call it socio-emotional processes. These interactions are not ignored by the leader, as in top-down settings, but they are observed by the leader closely. And then expressions of members' needs and their feelings. They are not discouraged, but they are encouraged in team meetings. And team leaders deal with those things openly. And then the committee is a slow working process. There's a chain of command that must be followed, whereas the team is fast, flexible. Now we're going to talk about some of the benefits of a team structure in the next slide. Which of the two are best, committees or teams? Well, you will have to decide that for yourself. Your church or organization may have a penchant for moving toward committees, or you may have an understanding that teamwork works best for you. The Brushy Mountain Baptist Association, where I have the privilege of serving as the associational missionary, has adopted a team structure, and it is working for us. I need to point out that it is a monumental task to transition from a committee structure to a team structure. It is a process, and it requires great time and attention to detail and a clear direction. Now I want to share with you some of the benefits of a team structure. First, it's fast. It is fast in terms of getting the job done much faster than you could expect in a committee setting. For example, because a team has developed trust and relationships with others, a team meeting doesn't necessarily have to be called to make a decision. A decision could be made over the telephone or through text messaging or email, and then that decision implemented quickly. For example, someone comes for benevolence. And instead of waiting for a committee meeting to deal with that benevolent need, a team can then just simply poll its members and decide to act. So, one of the benefits of team structure is that it's fast. A second benefit for a team structure is being flexible. So in addition to being fast, a team structure is flexible. Being flexible means that it can change. It can change quickly. It is very adaptable. It does not have to wait on long processes to change it. So it is very flexible in getting the job done. Not only is a team structure fast, and that is able to identify and act on opportunities that are presented to it, and flexible, it can change and not be stagnant, but also it's focused. It's focused on the future. A team can see the future and see changes that are needed. As the change becomes an apparent solution or an opportunity for growth, then the team will embrace it. Also, a team is focused in the sense that they have a task to perform and they go about it with all of their energy and all of their passion. Now let's look at the fourth benefit that we want to examine. The fourth benefit is being friendly. It's friendly in this way. When a decision needs to be made, it doesn't require a month or 2 months to move forward with a commitment to do a job or a ministry. For example, if there was an experience where a church needed to replace a window and a committee was involved with it, they might have a committee meeting and they might discuss several different ways to approach fixing that window. Some might suggest we don't need to just simply repair that window, we need to replace it because there's rot around the window sills. One might suggest, I have an uncle who's in that business. Let me get a price from him. And so they may meet and come back in a month to share their information with the group so they can make a decision. So a month passes. They come back and someone else has decided they want to put in a bid, and as a result of that they meet again 2 months later, and then maybe they make a decision. So 2 months have passed, and now the church body needs to decide if they're going to approve the money for accomplishing this relatively simple task. They approve the money in a business meeting, so it may be 3 months before the replacement of that window can actually happen. Now, I realize that I'm being very facetious in this, but isn't it much better to have a group that would be friendly toward the request and in just a matter of hours could make a decision, yes, let's replace that window and move forward? By their very structure, teams are more friendly than committees because they can get the job done faster, in a flexible way, and in a focused way. What are some of the elements that breed team success? Well, let me share 5 of them with you. Number 1 is a clear, common, compelling task. That means there's a purpose. Members proudly share a sense of why the team exists, and they are investing in it to accomplish their mission and their goal. They have become highly effective in what they want to accomplish. They want to become highly effective in what they want to achieve. And then, crystal clear roles, how we design, divide, and deploy the work of the team. Members know their roles. They know that their roles are important because they will help get the task done. And they also know how to allow a more skillful member to do a certain job. And in that way, they are utilizing the best talent they possibly have. And then number 3, there is clear and competent leadership. Leadership is participatory. There is an interdependence, and there is an empowering of the leadership, freeing them up to serve others. Then there is the process that builds trust. Process is an extremely important ingredient. There are 2 types of processes, working and thinking. Thinking together is where a team finds synergy. Teams strive to tap into the collective IQ of the team. It often leads to new insights, and people are able to discern together what needs to be done. Meetings are like the playing field for high-performance teams. It's the place that they work. High-performance teams constantly tinker with processes, believing that they can always be done in a better way. And then last, communication. Communication is absolutely essential. It's an essential part of what needs to be done in any team. Now, high communication means that we create a climate of trust and openness, and there's honest communication taking place among the teams. I want to show you in the next slide some resources you might want to take advantage of. If you have an interest in going further in the study of teams, or perhaps gaining information on how to implement teams in your own setting, I would recommend these books. The Performance Factor, Unlocking the Secrets of Teamwork by Pat McMillan. And then Laws of Teamwork by John Maxwell. Almost anything Maxwell writes is very practical. Transforming Your Church with Ministry Teams by Stanley Ott. And then Sticky Teams, Keeping Your Leadership Team and Staff on the Same Page by Larry Osborne. I've also gained information from the Baptist State Convention of North Carolina with their High Impact Ministry. I've enjoyed this time together with you. I hope that it has been practical and helpful. And until our next lecture, this is Steve Gouge wishing you Godspeed.